Okay. The first problem is about taking a tile pattern and doing different things with it like we've been doing in class. So the first question says, part A, write an equation or rule for the number of tiles in the pattern. So if we look at this pattern, figure 2 has 4 tiles in it. Figure 3 added 1 more, and then figure 4 added 1 more. So we know that the growth is +1. So I know that my rule is going to be y equals 1x. And then if I can figure out what the 0 pattern is, if I went back to figure 1, I know that I would be taking away a tile. So figure 1 might look like this. Then if I went back to figure 0, I would take away another tile. So this would be figure 0. So I know it's going to be 1x plus 2. So part B wants to explain how the growth factor and number of tiles appears in our equation. So my equation, the growth factor is 1 and in front of x. And the 0 figure is 2 and being added. Part C says, draw figures 1 and 5. So 1, I already drew. It should look something like this. Figure 5, I know figure 4 started out, if I scroll back up, figure 4 has 4 tiles coming off. And then 1 more tile. And then you guys need to write an explanation of how you figured out what the tiles are. So then it says, use the tile pattern above to make a graph. So I'm going to actually use my rule. So I know that I'm going to start at +2, but I'm going up and over 1 each time. So this is what my graph will look like. So then part E says, how many tiles will be in figure 100? So to do that, I just plug it back in. So I do 100 times 1 plus 2. So 100 times 1 is 100. 100 plus 2 is 2. So it's 102 tiles. And then F, which figure would have 203 tiles in it? Now, my pattern, I would set it equal to it. So I do 203 equals x plus 2. Subtract 2 from each side. So it'll be pattern 200, figure 201. Okay, so that's how you're going to set up the whole first part. So you're going to pause the video and you're going to do the same problem, similar with a different pattern. Okay. For the next set of problems, it says use the rule above, which is y equals -3x plus 1, to create the first 3 figures, figure 0, figure 1, and figure 2 of a tile pattern for the above rule. Be sure to shade to show growth. So figure 0 has 1 tile in it. My figure 1, I take 3 tiles away from 1. So if I did that, I would actually end up with -2 tiles. And figure 2, I'm going to take away 3 more tiles. So I'm going to end up with -5. So problem number 6, and I'm just going to write my rule again down here so I don't have to keep scrolling back up. It's y equals -3x plus 1. I'm going to plug in for my rule. So -3 times -3 is 9, plus 1 is going to give me 10. -2 times -3 is 6, it's going to give me 7. -1 would be 3, plus 1 is going to give me 4. -3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. -3 plus 1 is -2. -6 plus 1 is -5. -9 plus 1 is going to be -8. So then it says graph it on here. So -3, 1, 2, 3, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 would go right here. -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would go right here. -1, 4 would go right there. 0, 1 would be right here. And then I would draw my line. Make sure to put arrows at either side. Just pause the video, and that's how you do the second question. Okay. The next question gives you two graphs, and you're writing the rule from the graph. So in order to do this, we have to figure out where our zero figure would be. And in this graph, it's going to be at 3. And then what our growth is. So we connect 2 points. If I go up and over, I get a +2. So my rule is y equals 2x plus 3. For the second graph, it tells me that my zero figure is at 12 and that I have a growth of -4. So I have y equals -4x plus 12. This next set of problems, you have to solve a series of equations. So I'm going to start, I gave us a very complicated one. Some of them might not be as complicated. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my like terms. So I know that these x's are going to combine, and those, the 5 and the 3. So 3x minus 2x is x plus 8 equals, I distribute a negative to all of them. So I get 4x minus 2x plus 3. So now I have x plus 8 equals 2x plus 3. So then I'm going to subtract an x from both sides. I get 8 equals x plus 3. And then I'm going to subtract a 3 from both sides. And I'm going to get 5 equals x, which is my final answer. The next is a diamond problem. And if you guys remember, in my diamond problems, I have a number here and a number here. I multiply those numbers together to get the top number, and I add them together to get the bottom ones. So in this case, I have the top and the bottom numbers, so I have to figure out what number I multiplied together to get 10, but added to -7. So I'm going to start listing all the things that multiply together to get +10. So I can do 5 times 2. I can do 10 times 1. Well, 5 times 2 equals 10. And when I add it, I get +7, but I need to get -7. So then I'm going to say, okay, I can try -5 times -2. I know that's +10 and -7. So those are my answers, -5, -2. The next problem is about circles. And on your test, it has listed the formulas for circles. So the first one is the fact that find the circumference. I do pi times diameter. And to find area, I do area is pi times radius squared. So the first question says, what's the length of the radius? And the radius, so if I have a different circle over here, my radius goes halfway across my circle, and my diameter goes all the way across my circle. So this picture gave me the diameter. So I know the length of the diameter is 6 inches. So that means the radius is half of that. So it is 3 inches. And you want to make sure to remember your units. So then it says, what's the circumference of the circle? So I use my formula and I do 3.14 times 6 because it's the diameter. So when I do that, I get 18.84 inches as my answer. Then the area of the square, I'm going to do pi times radius squared. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 3 squared, or 3.14 times 9. Get 28.26 inches squared. So I want to make sure I have my units. Okay. So the next problem talks about finding the shaded part. And we talk about finding the shaded part. We're talking about finding this part of the outside. So it's like I took away or took out the inside circle. Well, to take away means to subtract. So this means I'm going to find the area of the outside, the area of the inside, and subtract them. So the area of the outside is a square. So I'm going to do 8 times 8, which is 64, minus, I'm going to find the area of the circle. Well, I know the diameter is 8, which means the radius must be 4 meters. So that means I'm going to do 3.14 pi times 4 squared, So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to do so what is 3.14? Let's just go back to this. So I need to do 4 squared is 16. So I need to know what 3.14 times 16 is. So I'm going to do 16 times 3.14. You guys will use your calculator. So 4, 12, 50.24. So now I'm going to do 64 minus 50.24, which is going to give me 13.76 meters squared. Okay. The next one is we have to write an equation in order to solve. So it says the perimeter of a triangle is 51 inches. The second side is 5 times as long as the first side. The third side is 2 inches longer than the second side. What is the length of each side? Show your work. So you can draw a picture of a triangle. That's going to help you kind of set it up. We can also make like our little table. So we have first side, second side, third side. So it tells us that our second side is 5 times as long as the first. So our first is going to be x. So 5 times x. The third side is 2 inches longer than the second side. So the second side is 5x. So the third side would be 5x plus 2. So I can make it x, 5x, 5x plus 2. So then I write an equation by combining these because the perimeter means to add up all the sides. So we get 10, 11x plus 2 equals 51. And then I solve. Minus 2, minus 2. So I get 11x equals 49. So I divide by 11. So it's not going to work out evenly. So, and then once you're done, you are going to write a sentence telling me what all 3 sides would equal. But you get to adjust. This works out to be 4.4 repeating. So it's 4 and 4/50. So x would be 4.4, and then we plug it back in to find the rest of the answers. So the next set of problems says to simplify. So we did that a little bit. So I'm going to add together my x's, my numbers. So I get 4 minus 5, which is a negative x, and 2 plus 7, which is 9. For the second example, I have to distribute the 3 and the negative. So I get 3x plus 6 minus 4x minus 3. I combine like terms, so I do 3x minus 4x, which is negative x, and 6 minus 3 is 3. So I get negative x plus 3. Next problems are on proportional reasoning. So it says Ming was planning a trip to Western Samoa. Before going, she did some research and learned that the exchange rate is 6 tala for $2. How many tala would she get if she exchanged $6? So I know it's 6 for $2 equals, I want to know how many tala, so that's going to be where my x goes, $6, and then I cross multiply. So I'm going to get 2x equals 36, divide by 2, I get x equals 18, so Ming will get 18 tala. Okay. The last set of problems you're evaluating, so you're plugging in a number for x. So this first problem, x is negative 3. So I'm going to do 2 times negative 3 minus 3. I get negative 6 minus 3, or negative 9. And then the second example, I'm doing the squaring of negative 2. So I get negative 2 to the second power minus 8. So I get 4 minus 8, which is negative 4.